Jonathan Fagan.
Hi. Before the game in Detroit, you were talking about the circumstances sort of kept you from establishing what you called a structure. 10 days later, not very long, where do you think you are? How do you feel about where that is at this point?
We're getting there. I guess the fact that we have a full group of players helps that. And, playing every other day lends itself to kind of building a routine. But the other kind of part of that is the making sure that the players are fresh for the games. So like a day like today, where we had a good game last night and the guys didn't play a bunch of minutes, but they're still playing every other day. So we didn't do very much. We did a little defensive technique, and then we got some shots up, and that was it. Some of the guys who hadn't played very many minutes played a little 2-on-2, and that to me is a good way of doing things. So I guess the structure's kind of moving in the right direction as far as the day-to-day, but there's still a lot that I want to do. There's still a lot offensively and defensively that I want to put in, and a lot that I want to kind of have the players kind of figure out. So yeah, it's coming. It's a little bit slower than I want it to be, but it's coming.
When you said structure, I was thinking identity, culture, that kind of thing. Is that what you had in mind, or is that just a part of what you had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of what I had in mind. And I mean, the identity of the group is kind of becoming a hard-playing defensive group, and that's just a function of the roster that we have. And it's up to me to put the right structure in place so that the players can kind of play to their strengths, and that whatever the best kind of way for us to play kind of comes out. So initially the thought was we would be a really, really good offensive team who could play 5 out and really put defenses in peril. But it's becoming very apparent that we have guys who can really get after it on the defensive end, and we can create offense off of our defense. So I guess that's kind of the ebbs and flows of the NBA, and putting a team together and having new guys and kind of figuring it out. So I guess structure in that way, yeah, we're moving in the right direction. But for me, it's very much about like as I've said, I take this very much as a day-by-day process, and making sure that every day I'm doing something is in place for us to get better. So we watched film, and we had a practice today, and hopefully we got a little bit better.
Thank you.
Adam Spolin.
Stephen, this portion of the schedule that you're about to enter into, and it's not just this next week, but really the entire month, where you've got to play, I think it's 17 games in 29 days. Does that seem daunting? And is the key, how do you try and keep players fresh when you have that many games in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's definitely hard to do. And we have guys who are coming off major injuries, and we have guys who are not going to be playing high 30s as far as minutes are concerned. So our depth is going to have to really come into play when it comes to that stretch of the season. And I talked to the players today about just having the first quarter of the season gone already. And now we have the next quarter prior to All-Star break, and really concentrating on making sure that we're getting better every day, taking care of our bodies, having energy for the games, all of those things. And yeah, it's daunting to play that many games in that few days. But the way that we are kind of taking each game and improving, the future looks bright as far as I'm concerned.
Christos Saltis.
Hello, Coach. how is the feeling after the 5 straight wins? What was the main improvement on your game, and also how big part is Victor Oladipo in these 5 straight wins?
Yeah, I mean, Vic has a big part of the 5 straight wins. Obviously, he's been very good, and he and John and he and Christian's connection has improved with every game. And then his ability to really be a good defender, not just on ball, but off ball and help situations has been good for us. And, you know, we've just kind of come together as a group over the last 5 games, and we played good defense, and we dealt with adversity as far as not getting off to good starts and fighting back and using our defense to propel our offense. And last night we made shots, which was good. And I mean, in order to be a good offensive team, you have to make shots and you have to play with pace and play with space. And we did that last night. So yeah, it's good to win the 5 in a row, and we're feeling good about ourselves, but we do know that we have a tough task ahead of us with 3 more games on this trip, and then a 1 game at home, and then more road games to come. So being a good road team is going to be definitely a key to the next couple weeks.
Holly Compajani.
Hey, Stephen. You've talked to us about the importance of taking advantage of gaps within the offense. How effective and helpful are flare screens within the 5-out offense that you guys have, especially those flares at the top of the key to create those gaps?
Yeah, they're very effective because they can spread defense out. If you're going to play pick and roll and you're trying to spread out the protection, you can run a flare screen to get that guy out of the way. You can also run a flare screen to get that guy open, whether his man is going under the screen and you're catching it and now you're getting to the next action, or if his defender is going over the screen, now you're playing downhill. So it just allows you to kind of distort the defense without doing much and maintaining your 5-out spacing. And then, you know, once we get our flare, then we can play high pick and roll with Christian Wood, or we can hit Christian and play with the corner man. There's a lot of different things you can do just by, one, moving the ball from side to side, and that's another important aspect of it. But 2, just having this defense to make a decision early in a possession.
Kaylee Griffin.
Hey, Coach Trace, I've got 2 questions. Coach, you just talked about how this team put together 5 wins, but there's still a ways to go. Victor Oladipo spoke about that as well. How encouraged are you from the coaching standpoint of seeing your team finding ways to be able to do that with this new roster and still realizing that their game can be elevated to an even another level still?
Yeah, it's very encouraging. We obviously have come together pretty quickly and have had some success, but we have a ways to go. It's just been a quarter of the season. We haven't really gotten into the depths of the Western Conference, and that's going to be something that we're going to see coming forward, and making sure that we're prepared for that part of the season. But yeah, it's definitely encouraging to have a 5-game winning streak and still feel like you're not playing at capacity, and still have a ways to go and still can come together more as a group on both ends of the floor.
We also talked to Eric before, and he tweeted last night that this stretch has been really fun. And he talked about how he's really enjoyed the group of players on this roster, both on and off the floor. From your 20 years of experience in coaching, how important and how maybe underrated is it to have a team that genuinely enjoys being around each other, both on and off the floor?
Yeah, it's definitely underrated. And we have a group that enjoys being around each other. And what that does is it leads to communication. So off the floor communication leads to on the floor communication, and off the floor trust leads to on the floor trust. So to have a group that communicates and trusts each other off the floor and has fun off the floor leads to a group that does all 3 things on the floor. And you know, it's a lot easier to help the next man if you really like the next man, and it's good to have the group that does.
Kelly Eco.
Hey, Coach, just from the film sessions and practices, what have you guys talked about recently in terms of having, stronger starts to games?
Yeah, I mean, we've really been talking more about having a defensive mindset coming into games and not allowing our makes or misses dictate whether we're going to have a good start to the game. But it's really just kind of been some games it's been like a make or miss thing. Like we missed shots that we usually can make, and they've been running out on us. Some games it's been energy. But it's definitely been something that we've been talking quite a bit about and showing the difference between, for instance, the first quarter last night, where I didn't think we were awful in the first quarter last night. We just missed some shots that we should have made. But then the second quarter, everything kind of came together and really highlighting at a time like this, there's two things with, and when you're on a winning streak, you can highlight the positive and make sure that we are continuing to do those positive things. But it's also easier to kind of point out the mistakes that you're making as a group and fix them without like hammering guys or hammering the team.
Ben DeBose.
Coach, what's going on with David? Do you have a sense of what his timetable is? Was he able to practice?
Yeah, so he wasn't able to practice today, and I talked to him for a while, and he's taking it day by day. I don't anticipate him playing tomorrow, and I would be surprised if he played the following game against OKC, but we'll see. He's going to be icing and doing his treatment, and we'll kind of have to wait and see. Luckily, we do have some depth, and Ben McLemore, who hasn't been playing, can step in, or I can go with 9 guys or whatever. So he'll be missed for however long he's missed. And I told him today, like some of the plays he made one play where he drove it in. So we passed the head to him. He drove it. This defense wasn't set. He missed it, got his own rebound and finished. And then there was another play where he went in and missed and then stole the ball back from this other team and then went back in. He just plays with such like reckless abandon. We're going to miss it, but he probably won't be out for too long.
And last question, Mark Berman. Mark.
Yep, I'm trying to.
Mark.
Unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
I don't know why it kept whatever. Stephen, sorry about that.
No
I know
worries.
you coached against PJ Tucker for years, but how long did it take you to figure out how valuable he would be to you as the head coach here?
It was like one of my first or second days on the job. He was up on the practice court, and we were getting some shots up, and him and Eric were both up there and put him through a workout, and just the work ethic, attention to detail, the conversation afterwards, the perspective that he has on basketball and how things should be done. Yeah, it was like day number 2 of me having the job, to know that he would be a big part of us being a good team and someone that I rely on, not just how hard he plays and how he communicates on defense and how he is just so smart on the offensive end, but also just someone who I can lean on and get the pulse of the group and make sure that I'm doing things in a way that makes sense.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.